Today we are going to see why creating and making progress and finishing any artistic project is good for you, for your health, for your mood, for your general well-being and for your lasting happiness. We are going to open the pages of a little book which has been a life companion of mine for the past 15 years. It was published in 1925 and this book is called Propos sur le Bonheur, on happiness, and was written by a French philosopher, Alain, whose real name was Émile Chartier. And this book is a necessary book to have, to read and reread often and again and always. It's not very hard these days to find pessimistic and depressed people around us. They are just everywhere. And this book is the best shield against all this doom and gloom which surround us. As the context of this book is also special, it has been written before First World War and after First World War, and a handful of pages in this book are especially focused on creating, art, work and happiness. The delight and happiness comes in making progress. They say that happiness always eludes us. That is true for happiness that have been handed to us, for there is no such happiness. But the happiness we make for ourselves is not illusory. It's a learning process and one never stops learning. The sign of real progress in any activity is the pleasure derived from it. Don't let your imagination trick you. Alain tells us not to be tricked by our imagination and anticipating the finished result when not even started. It is said that men always aim for some particular thing, but I see them listless before starting a perfectly reasonable goal. Their imagination does not have enough strength to interest them in a work that has not yet taken shape. That is why we see so many things which we consider worthwhile doing and which we do not do. The agitation is always in the present and the projects are always in the future, whence the expression of the lazy, I'll do it, and the expression of the man is rather, I'm doing it, for it's action which contains the future. And the same is true of our works, for the future which a particular work reveals to us is never the one we imagined, and is always better. Happiness comes in starting. Notice men who are busy and happy, they all eagerly pursue work that has been started, a grocery store that is expanding, or a stamp collection. Each realizes that no work is frivolous as soon as it is in progress. Embroidery is hardly enjoyable for the first few stitches, but as it progresses, it acts on our desire with an accelerated power. That is why faith is the first virtue and hope only the second, for we must begin without hope and hope will come from development and progress. Creating is discovering what one is doing. I do not believe that Michelangelo began to paint because he had all those forms in his head. When confronted with the inevitable, he simply said, "But that is not my trade." Still, he began to paint and the forms emerged, and that is what painting is. Discovering what one is doing. I love this passage from the book The Observation of Alain, so deep and so true that creating is discovering what we are doing. It's always the right time to start. What I find admirable in a man like Michelangelo is the fiery will that takes charge of the natural gifts and makes of an easy life a difficult one. This man, who was without a trace of complacency and a head of white hair when, as he put it, he went to school to try to learn something, that shows to irresolute people that any time is a good time to exert your will. And as it's the beginning of the year, it's the perfect time to put some of Alain's observation into practice. He tells us that it's always time to want to do something. It's always the perfect time to go back to your abandoned projects and crafts or projects on pause. It's the perfect time to awaken sleeping projects or even start very long projects which require a bit of consistency. And winter is the best season to focus and to create or to make big progress on long projects because there are less temptations outside. So I hope this little book is going to inspire you. I think you can find it translated on Amazon and maybe other places. You can for sure find second-hand copies, I think, on eBay and the other websites which sell second-hand books, but it's really a necessary book to have in your bookshelf, just to navigate out troubled times, maybe to learn how to deal with complainers, pessimistic people around you, also with your own demons. It's not only about creation and creating, there are many chapters and pages on this topic, so that's why I think it's an important and necessary book to have for artists and people who like to create, but really for anybody, and I go back to it constantly. I pretty much have it in my studio. It's a philosopher, so it's not really like all these self-help books you have everywhere, which come from anybody really. Here it's a robust and solid book which has been written both before the First World War and after First World War. So there is a symbolic too in the context of the writing of this book, which is also interesting and just a necessary book to have to be a bit more smiling and happy, even if you are surrounded by really miserable and depressed people around you. So I recommend for sure this book to start the year on a good foot. And it's a short book, it's about 200 pages long, so you're not going to spend a long time to read it, and it's just very short chapters. So I also wanted to do a follow-up on the Penpal swap we did in January, and I organized it on my first video about writing this year, the first one I did in January. And there was a Penpal swap. You could introduce yourself and find a Penpal. This happens on my blog at merveillenpapier.com/blog, and you have the link under this video. It was totally free for anybody who wanted to find a like-minded person who wanted to exchange letters on, well, common topics. And I already received some messages from people who received their first letters from the new correspondents this year. So it's really wonderful, and I hope everybody who wanted to find a correspondent on the website and who introduced themselves, that everybody found someone. I'm not sure, but I really hope. I know some found many correspondents, so I hope everybody did. Some persons just very recently added their presentations, so you can still go there and find maybe people you didn't see at the beginning. So just this week, some person added their presentation and wanted to correspond with people. So you can go there. It's still possible to go there and to find a correspondent to start your year in a different way, because it's not the same to receive an email. Of course, online you can find anybody, but it stays for the most part online. When you take the time to write a letter on a real paper with ink, you put a real stamp on it, which costs you a little, but this is part of the game too. It's not the same thing to receive this attention in paper, in the flesh, than receiving some digital message. And who knows where it might lead you in a few years, in a few months. You don't know, you may meet this person in the flesh, probably more than people from the online world that you only exchange a few digital messages with. So for now, I will leave you here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss all the nice videos coming, and I promise there are a lot coming. And you can give a thumbs up if you were inspired by this video, maybe to be a little more consistent with your artwork, with your projects, your crafts, your hobbies, and maybe to be more happy this year thanks to them. Thank you, and I will see you soon.